Okay. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Cyprian Jericho Masa Anak Desmond, and I would like to greet you all. Good evening to my lecturer and my fellow peers. And today, I am honored and delighted to present my case study titled The Architecture of Empathy, Restorative Practices and Linguistic Precision. This presentation is not just a recount of a school incident. It is an exploration of how we, as future educators, can use grammar in context as a specialized tool. We will examine how professional documentation and restorative dialogue, when supported by precise linguistic choices, can transform a harmful cyberbullying event into a profound learning opportunity for students. And by the end of this session, I hope to demonstrate that the way we structure our words directly influences the way we heal our classroom communities. So, I would like to repeat again that my case study titled The Architecture of Empathy, Restorative Practices and Linguistic Precision. So we're moving on to slide 2, which is conflict profile, the anatomy of a digital incident. So, let us begin by looking at the specific conflict that triggered the analysis. On March 4, 2026, a serious cyberbullying incident was brought to my attention involving a group of Form 1 students. The medium was a private class group chat on a social media platform, which is like a WhatsApp, a space where students often feel they are beyond the reach of school authority. An edited, unflattering photo of a student named Michael was disseminated, quickly followed by a barrage of mocking comments and laughing emojis. When we look at the intent versus reality dynamic, we see a classic case of digital disconnect. Meanwhile, the instigator viewed his actions through the lens of a joke, completely detached from the human being on the other side of the screen. Meanwhile, the reality for Michael, the victim, was one of intense isolation, public embarrassment, and a significant blow to his sense of safety within the school. And so, we are moving on to the third slide, which is administrative intervention, the formal incident report. So, when an incident like this occurs, the teachers must immediately pivot into a professional administrative role. So, as for me, my first step was the discovery and observation phase, where I had to verify the digital evidence while ensuring the content was removed to prevent viral harm. So, I then moved to draft the formal incident report. The purpose of this document is to serve as the official record for the well-being committee. In this report, I avoided emotional language, choosing instead to focus on the objective summary of findings. I documented the interviews with the involved students, noting that they had forwarded the image without any prior consideration for Michael's emotional state. And finally, I proposed a restorative action plan. Instead of recommending a standard suspension, which often breeds resentment rather than reflection, I advocate a structured conference aimed at building empathy and repairing the damaged relationship. And so, we're moving on to the fourth slide. The restorative conference, bridging the empathy gap. So, I work as the natural facilitator. So in this slide, I will explain about The Restorative Conference is a carefully choreographed dialogue. As the facilitator, my role was to create a neutral and safe container for communication. I started the script by establishing ground rules. We were there to talk about harm and repair, not to just point fingers. During the conference, you can see a significant shift in the dialogue. Initially, the instigator tried to minimize his actions, but as the session progressed, he was forced to hear the victim's raw perspective. So as the victim spoke about his worry and his desire for the mockery to stop, this face-to-face interaction stripped away the anonymity of the internet. The result was a sincere apology from the instigator and a mutual agreement to delete the digital content, showing that when we facilitate dialogue correctly, students can reach a resolution that no detention could ever achieve. Now, we are moving on to the fifth slide, which is the structured accountability, the reflective process. So, as you can see on this slide, there are five cycles, which is understanding the situation, thoughts and feelings, considering the impact, taking responsibility, learning for the future. To solidify the lessons learned in the conference, I implemented a student reflective sheet. This isn't just a punishment essay. It is a pedagogical intervention designed to move a student through different stages of moral reasoning. First, the student must objectively recount their actions. This removes the ability to make excuses. Then, they move into motive analysis, where they reflect on why they thought it was funny at the time. The most important section is impact mapping, where the student must explicitly write down how the victim felt. By making the student write advice for the peers in the final section, we empower them to become an advocate for positive digital citizenship. This turns a moment of failure into a moment of social and emotional growth. So, we are now moving on to the sixth slide. Linguistic cohesion, structuring the professional narrative. Now, let's analyze the grammar that makes this documentation effective. Cohesion is what allows a professional report to be taken seriously by school boards or legal entities. I rely heavily on complex noun phrases such as the systematic dissemination of hurtful digital content to give the report a high level of descriptive accuracy. So, by using formal verb phrases like was brought to the attention of management, I established an objective, authoritative tone. Furthermore, I use cohesive devices and sentence variety to ensure that the logic was ironclad. By linking facts to explanation using coordinating conjunctions like and or but, I ensure the narrative moves smoothly from the cause of the problem to the teacher's necessary intervention, which leaving no room for ambiguity. Now we are on slide 7, which is meaning making, contextualizing responsibility, which is grammar as a social tool. Grammar is also about meaning making. It is how we use language to define relationships and expectations. In my reflections and report, I used a model verbs with great intentionality. Using should or must allows a teacher to set firm boundaries and outline professional obligations, while could or may opens up possibilities for student-led solutions. I also paid close attention to a verbal nuance. using adverbs like sincerely, apologize, or appropriately addressed defines the quality of the student's rehabilitation. And finally, prepositional phrases were used to pin the incident down in time and space, specifying that this happened within the online group chat during the weekend, which provides the essential context needed for administrative accountability. So, we are now on the 8th slide. The protective reporting clause, maintaining the buffer zone. A critical concept in my analysis is the use of reporting clauses. According to Carter and McCarthy, these clauses allow us to present the words of others while maintaining a respectful and appropriate distance. In a case involving cyberbullying, emotions run high, as you all know. By using phrases like, Michael stated that he felt embarrassed. I am creating a buffer zone, which allows me to emphatically communicate Michael's pain to the school committee without becoming emotionally entangled myself, as it also protects my professional neutrality while ensuring Michael's voice is heard exactly as he intended. This is a vital skill for any educator handling high conflict situations, which allows us to be a witness to the truth without losing our professional stance. So, next slide, slide 9. Professional reflection. The teacher's multifaceted role, which the teacher works as a neutral facilitator. Reflecting on this entire case study has changed my perspective on classroom management. I've come to realize that clear, neutral, and precise language is our greatest defense against escalating school conflict. When we speak and write with precision, we uphold ethical standards and ensure that every student feels heard and respected. This experience has taught me that effective communication goes far beyond just giving instructions. It's about active listening and modeling empathy. By choosing restorative practices over purely punitive measures, we aren't being soft on bullying. We are actually being firm on the harm, while being caring toward the human, which is the only way to foster true moral and social development. Last but not least, we are now on the last slides, which is slide 10, which is synthesis, grammar as a tool for healing. I will conclude that this case study demonstrates that the intersection of intentional grammatical structure and restorative pedagogy is where a safe learning environment is truly built. Proper phrase selection and cohesion ensure that our professional documentation is accurate, objective, and ethical. The strategic use of modal verbs and reporting clauses ensures that our students are held accountable while their emotional well-being is validated. So, us as educators, we must remember that grammar is not just a set of abstract rules to be taught in a classroom. It is a living tool that, when used correctly, can heal our relationships with friends, family, and also our loved ones. Also, it protects our professional integrity, which, when we speak in front of others with good grammar level and high confidence, it makes people respect us even more. And it also builds a culture of respect through our environment. In our environment, I mean. So, I think that is all from me. Thank you for your time. Thank you for willing to listen to my explanation in this case study. So, that's all from me. Thank you.